Is a stiff braking pedal the holy grail of sim racing? Depending on the car, professional racers are using up to 160 kg of braking force. Do all these drivers end up with a massive left foot from braking so hard? Makes you wonder, right? And more importantly, is this needed for us sim racers to be quick on the track? I'm Marian, a sim racing coach, one of the 1% quickest drivers in iRacing, and for a whole month, I've turned my rig into a lab for testing. Not only will we understand the differences between a stiff and a soft brake pedal, what's faster and why, but I'll also show you what braking at the limit really means, why most intermediate drivers are still 1 second of the pace, and how you can improve with science. This will be an in-depth video aimed to change your view on braking forever. Now let me confess something, guys. When I started this experiment, I thought I knew the winner. I mean, I was sure which brake setting would be fastest, I just needed the proof, but you'll see about that later. So here's the plan. I set up 3 different brake pedal settings to test. Soft, 30 kg, light as a feather. Medium, 80 kg, my usual setting, and trust me, it's already a workout. And stiff, 120 kg, felt like I was trying to stomp a rock into the floor. To keep things fair, I tested each setting on 3 combos. The baseline for all this? My lap times using the 80 kg setting from my track guides. Quick side note, when my friends tried the baseline, the 80 kg, they struggled to press it, so I usually dialed it down for them. So it's already stiff. So my mission? Beat those baseline lap times with either the soft 30 kg setting or the super duper stiffer 120 kg. And this is where the story begins. But in order to give you some context, if you're new to sim racing or lived under a rock like I was when starting out, a stiffer brake pedal has some obvious theoretical advantages. We'll see in a moment how they stack up in practice, but the best analogy that ties directly with braking is to imagine a shooter esports game such as CS2. All those players have ridiculous levels of low sensitivity, so for them to do a 180, they have to cover a lot of ground with the mouse. Even though it's slower, the player can accurately move the crosshair 1 pixel at a time if needed, which brings us back to racing. When coming off the brakes, there's an infinite way of doing it. Will you drop the pressure at a steady rate, or will you hold some certain percentages more? And more importantly, are you able to do this on purpose, or is your brake pedal setting getting in the way? Think about it. With a clear goal in mind, I hit lime rock and cranked the brake stiffness up to 120 kg. And let me tell you, it felt like I was pushing through a rock. I figure I will adjust after a few laps, but nope. It was really hard to go past 60% pressure, and if I had to really force myself to press harder, I will often lose focus on modulating the pressure. Oh, come on. After about an hour of this torture, my knee was done. This was not how I was imagining it to go, so the only option was to quit. To quit the excuses and find a solution. It was clear that I had to take it baby steps. Jumping from 80 to 120 is a big leap, so for over 2 weeks I did my track guides videos progressively, increasing the pressure from 90 to 100 and then to 110. It didn't feel bad compared with 80, but there's something I noticed in my telemetry. I was bleeding the brakes a bit too quickly from the peak pressure. Because it was tough to hold the pressure around the peak, since at the peak I was pushing with a lot of force, my muscles wanted to relax, and I was relaxing the brakes a bit too quickly. It wasn't much, but I could feel it in the heavy braking zones. So before doing the final jump to 120 kg, I added a bit of isometric foot training in my gym routine to strengthen my left foot. Did I expect it to be working out for sim racing? Not really, but here we are. With legs like bricks, I came back home, and in the next days I pushed really hard on the selected tracks and cars. Compared with my baseline lap times, these were my results. Even though I wasn't able to go quicker than my previous times, it showed some potential in the medium and high speed corners. Basically, whenever I had to brake more than 50%, I had some disadvantages, which we're gonna discuss in a moment. Moving to a softer pedal settings showed 2 main issues in my driving. What I mean by this is, when I was pressing the brakes initially, I could instantly hear my tires screeching. If you don't know, using sounds to help with braking is straight up good. There are some specific sounds that the tires make to let you know when you're going past the limit. I've explored this topic in my sim racing course, which you can find in the video description, but basically I was braking too hard. Your brake shape has two stages of braking, one with the sole purpose of slowing the car down and the other one just to help with rotation. The problem was that my driving only had the first stage, since I was slowing down too much to the point that it was impossible to trail brake more. But to be fair, in a couple of days of, getting used with a softer brake pedal setting, I was starting to avoid these issues. After more attempts, these were my results with a softer brake pedal setting. Those were a bit worse than the 80 and the 120, but I felt these results don't tell the whole story. I genuinely felt better when driving, and adapting to it was easy. And there's one area where I was blown away with the lower pedal setting. Braking felt fast. I could reach peak pressure a lot quicker, almost feeling like I could instantly engage the brakes without losing time building up the pressure. But there's one surprising outcome I didn't expect. I decided to try one more thing. Because I felt there's a good potential in a softer pedal, I changed it to 60 kg, which is still lower than my baseline. I love the instant reaction time of soft braking, but without the issues I had in the lower end of the brake trace. In the end, the adjustment to 60 kg shocked me. I was finding time everywhere, not much, but tiny bits, half tent here, half tent there, so I tried pushing really hard and I ended up with these lap times. I beat all my previous records on all track car combos, and it didn't feel hard to do it. With a softer pedal, I could hit max braking faster, which meant I didn't have to hold peak pressure as long and could start trail braking earlier. The reason why it worked is in the tire temps. Longer peak pressure heats up the tire surface, which kills grip. By shifting to trail braking sooner, the tires stayed cooler and I gained extra grip. The old way, with red, holds peak pressure too long, creating heat. Obviously, while driving, I was not thinking about holding certain brake percentages. I was trying to go as quickly as I can, and I just noticed these technical details after checking my laps. Indeed, it felt better driving with a softer braking setting, but I was not trying on purpose to drive in a way that will benefit the tires. The results were just a byproduct of me being able to brake quicker initially and then to carefully balance the car while cornering. The key takeaway is that I didn't change my braking technique on purpose to make this new setting work. My technique changed to the better as a result of the new setting. But what does that mean for you? For those of you who want to know more about the braking technique, I covered this in full in my sim racing course in the video description. But regarding the experiment, both ultra soft and ultra stiff settings showed weaknesses. Extreme softness led to imprecision in the initial braking phase, while extreme stiffness led to fatigue and made it harder to modulate pressure. However, a big factor in how much stiffness you need is your pedal position. You should aim for a 90-degree angle. Setting your pedal to a 90-degree angle relative to your foot maximizes the biomechanical leverage from your leg. This angle lets you push with maximum force without relying too much on small muscle groups that fatigue easily. When your leg and pedal form a 90-degree angle, you're using the large muscle groups, so you're reducing strain. Not every rig setup allows for exact 90-degree placement, so play with angles between 80 and 100 degrees to see what feels most comfortable and more controlled. For drivers with longer legs, a slightly less acute angle might help. For shorter drivers, a slightly more acute angle can provide better leverage. The seat position also matters. Moving your seat closer or further from the pedals can impact how much pressure you're able to apply comfortably. Sitting too far back can reduce leverage, while sitting too close can strain your knee and prevent you from achieving a controlled brake release. Aim for a slight bend in your knee when the pedal is fully pressed, which gives you better control over brake modulation. A fully extended leg has less control over fine-tuned pressure adjustments, and it's also more tiring for longer sessions. When starting my experiment, I had all these things dialed down. So before getting on a quest to find the perfect stiffness, you have to maximize the biomechanical leverage from your leg. This will automatically increase the maximum stiffness that you can reach, and even though I found out a softer pedal setting was quicker, 60 kg in my case, this will be considered for many of you quite hard to press. It's softer for me because I have a high biomechanical leverage by properly setting my position in the rig. The type of the pedals is also a factor here. My Husing belts are load cell pedals and I've tuned them with a custom spring to create a better two-stage type of braking. If you don't have a load cell pedal and you're just starting out with some, let's say, Logitech or Thrustmaster pedals, you'll most likely be faster if you make the pedal as stiff as possible. When starting out, I did not have a rig, so my pedals were on the floor, and when I was pressing them, the pedals or the chair were moving. Making sure the pedals stay fixed is super important. Even entry-level cheap pedals can be improved with some custom parts, which are not expensive. For example, I found custom rubbers to increase the stiffness of the pedals. So if you're limited by entry-level pedals and you can't adjust the stiffness, consider the DIY market. But let's say you have load cell pedals and they're strongly mounted in your rig, your sitting position is correct, and you have the ability to change the stiffness of the pedals. What I would encourage you to do is compare your telemetry and see where you're losing time compared with quick drivers. Is it in the first stage of braking or the second stage? If you're losing in both, focus on the one where you're losing the most. To sum up the brake settings and my results across the tests. In real life racing, drivers have the help of G-forces to push those pedals down hard. In sim racing, without the physical momentum, we need to adjust to what feels right for us. Stiffer settings aren't automatically better. After all these tests, I'm quite sure very few people can make stiff braking work. I've improved my pace by going to a softer settings, and personally, I'm happy with the results. So if you've been running super stiff brakes, consider experimenting with a softer setup. Try it, see how it feels, and let your lap times be the final judge. And if you got value out of this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. It really helps this channel going on. And while properly setting the pedal is the first step for better lap times, building your technique from the ground up is even more important. You can find a lot of actionable steps in the following videos, or even better, in my sim racing course at getgoodracing.com. Go check it out.